Welcome to Third Eye Weekly. Joining us today is Ernesto Ramirez, the Program Director for the Quantified Self Lab, an organization dedicated to self-knowledge through numbers. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Awesome. So let's start with how you first became interested in this line of work.
Sure. That's a little bit of a, I don't know, interesting or boring story, depending on how you take it. I am in graduate school. I'm completing a PhD in public health, and I've been interested in health technology for quite a while, specifically around physical activity. And I started grad school right when Fitbit started kind of becoming a thing. This was back in 2008, and someone approached my advisor, the director of our department, and said, "Hey, there's this cool thing called Quantified Self Meetups. Do you want to help me start one here in San Diego, where I was at school?" And because he's the director of the department, he said, "I'm way too busy for that, but here's this young grad student who loves this kind of stuff. Why don't you go talk to him?" And then that led me to helping start a meetup in San Diego. And then that kind of just I guess snowballed from there, and I think started becoming more involved in the organization since then in 2010.
So what was the inspiration to start the global movement?
Yeah, so Quantified Self started a little bit before I became involved. In late 2007. Kevin Kelly, one of the original editors of Wired magazine, and Gary Wolf, who was there as a writer at Wired, basically took a step back and thought, what's next? At that point, personal computing, which what Wired magazine was kind of founded its idea upon, what had come to the fore. That was part of our daily lives. And so they saw that computing was going to get even more personal and like closer to our bodies. And so they said, "Hey, let's just see if anyone's interested in this topic." They put together a meetup in late 2007. About 30 people showed up, and it was just kind of readily apparent that people were already using computers and machines and sensors and data about themselves to understand themselves. And then rather than us kind of saying, hey, everyone needs to be out there talking about it, it basically was a very organic growth. People would show up at that meetup in the Bay Area on vacation, or heard about it through friends and said, "Hey, I want to go do this where I live." And so we had someone from New York set one up, and then someone from Amsterdam, and then someone from London, and it just kind of has slowly grown. And now we have about a little over 110 meetups around the world in about 30 different countries.
Wow, that's incredible. So what do you do in these QS labs that you actually help run? What are the breakdown of what you guys do there?
Yeah, so as an organization, we support this global community. So the meetup infrastructure, we support the organizers that are kind of boots on the ground, bringing together people who are learning about themselves through data. We put on typically about 2 conferences a year, a conference in the United States and then one in Europe. And we also do some project work. So at the moment, we have a project that's funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, a large philanthropy that's basically focused on health and healthcare in the United States. And we are basically operating almost in this advocate role around personal data for both personal and public health, and the role of data access, basically in our current environment, but also into the future.
So what are some of the common tools that are used to track ways to improve health and chronic disease?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, obviously, there's the common stuff that are out there, like your Fitbits. Mobile applications are really popular. You have things like MyFitnessPal and Lose It and other different type of kind of calorie counters, food dietary trackers. The main stuff really is kind of the things that you would normally think of. Physical activity, exercise, weight, blood pressure, diet. Those kind of are the bedrock of what most people engage with. But then there's almost no end to what is available out there, like on the market, or what people are kind of creating on their own. So from things like continuous glucose monitors that individuals with diabetes are using to track and understand their blood glucose levels throughout the day, to things like indoor air quality sensors. People are exploring lots of different ways to bring data out of kind of that invisible realm into reality so that they can work with it.
But so there's a difference between just purely tracking data and then also taking that data and analyzing it and finding how you can actually improve your health. What are some experiences or stories that really shine out to you where people were able to analyze their data through Fitbit or through other tools and really improve their health?
Yeah, no, that's a great example. So that's that's a great question. That typically actually what goes on at these meetups and these conferences. People kind of put their hand up and say, I've tracked this thing. This is how I've tracked it, and this is what I've learned. A lot of times that is health related. So good examples of this are, we have a woman who's an organizer in Pittsburgh. She's at Carnegie Mellon. Really smart person, was having some issues, some dietary issues, some gut related problems, and couldn't really figure out what was going on. So she started tracking what she was eating, how she was feeling, her sleep and her activity patterns, just taking pictures of her food, that kind of thing, just to kind of keep that visual record, and tried eliminating things. Basically started different types of elimination diets, tried to figure out what's going on, couldn't figure out anything. Basically read a book, and found out through other through that tracking and then looking back at her data and through other elimination that she had an aversion to nightshades. So kind of food in the nightshade family, and that's basically has changed the way she eats and kind of the way she lives her life, and even spawned a system where people can bring in lots of different disparate data sources and kind of aggregate them together to look at those correlations or the patterns and how some of that data matches. On the other end of the spectrum, we've had people who, there's a gentleman in Europe who tracked his sneezes for like 2 years. He had really severe allergies, and every time he sneezed, he was just like, okay, I'm sneezing today. What's going on? Where am I? And was able to kind of figure out how to understand what was affecting his allergies kind of throughout his life. We've had an untold number of people talking about weight tracking, just without even doing diet, without physical activity, about just using stepping on the scale and how that affects their life and how they think about what they're doing, in order to lose or maintain weight. Of course, physical activity and exercise, lots of stuff.
I'm curious to learn maybe if there are special sort of tracking and analyzation that's going on during the holidays, where everybody's indulging obviously in a lot more food, but are trying to find a way to quantify and maintain their diet and their health even throughout the holidays.
So the question was, are there special things that are going on over the holidays? It's interesting. I think I just saw that MyFitnessPal, which is one of the large dietary tracking applications out there, was partnered with Ythings. Ythings is a French company that was originally started making internet connected scales. Now they make a variety of different products, but they got together to look back historically, like what does happen and what doesn't happen over the holiday season, and they found basically is people that pay attention do better. Which is like, I mean, it is a lot of this stuff does seem kind of like no duh. Like, all right, if you step on a scale every day, you're obviously gonna that's going to change the way you think. Or if you track your activity, you track your exercise. But at the core, these tools are just allowing people to do it easier. They're making the data more accessible, and in some cases, they're making that experience of being present and aware of your health much more interesting through a variety of different means, social means, competition, collaborations, lots of different things. So if for people are that want to figure out for the holiday season, just it's easy, just pay attention, be aware, be mindful. Like it does. If you don't have to track it, if you don't want to, just be in the moment.
Some good advice for the holidays.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
those are all the questions we had for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Ernesto. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.